So I'm 3 minutes late to the Zoom call, and I miss all the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes discussion. Dang it!
And that should have been on today's Men of the Apes, but he was 3 minutes late, so he...
You want to do it again? You want to do it again?
No, let's leave it like that.
Exercise with an ape maker, human down. Then talks. There's a divine bound.
We are determined to know what the apes want, war or peace.
And if it is man's destiny one day to be dominated, then oh please God, let him be dominated by such as you.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, a daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. And you know what? Richard and I planned it so that we could have Star Wars Galaxy Hero talk while
private
Sean
time.
wasn't here. That's right.
Private time.
We needed a little private time with our Galaxy of Heroes today. Sean, thanks for joining us finally.
Yeah, finally.
All right. And all the time that I've, been the one to push the buttons, send the invites, Sean's never been the last one to join. And it's no knock on Richard. It's just usually Sean is right there and then
Oh,
Richard.
that is some shade. That's what that was.
That is a little shade. I didn't mean it that way.
Wow.
All right, minute 72. Tell us what's going on, Sean.
All right, we start minute 72 with guns and fire and ends with riding apes running by a fire.
All right, here we come with a very Riot-tastic minute from Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, minute 72.
As of minute 72, we have a courtyard worth of gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, imported apes, Caesars. We've lost apes and ape management. We've lost guards. And now there's fire.
All right, so is it a bad strategy to throw fire in front of the army
of your own people?
That you're yes, in front of your own people, in front of the people that have guns, so that they can blindly shoot through, because now that shotgun is looking like a very smart idea. If you're throwing, I can't see you, I'm like, screw it, I got a shotgun, boom, and that spreads out, and I knock out a bunch of people. Should that flame not have been aimed right at the guards, and would that not have been a very exciting thing to see that flame lick up over the shields or something like that?
Or, yeah, like actually throw it on the guards, because I'm not sure what the purpose of the flames is. Is it just to distract the guards? Because the apes are running to the sides of the flame. They're running around the flame.
I guess it really comes down to, do I want to scrutinize this for the staging of the sequence, or do we want to criticize Caesar's inability to execute a plan that visually works and makes a little bit of sense? I mean, it's like it's the two. This basically is the stage sets. They can actually get these kind of shots in without getting people in the fire. But it's not, if you're thinking about it, how you're planning out this as a war tactic, it's not very effective. No,
it's not. And I think from a movie standpoint, and I have some notes tomorrow about criticisms of how and what the apes were intending. They hit me more tomorrow, but I can use them today. I don't care. If I'm throwing a flame,
I doesn't care. Who used tomorrow's notes
Well,
that's
today?
right. I'll use tomorrow today.
So the audience just listen to the audio. You want to kind of describe
Sure.
Then maybe they remember from the movie, maybe they're watching it simultaneously as we talk about it. But tell them what actually happened in this minute, just in terms of what's going on.
So the very basic gist of this, and it's pretty easy to describe, is yesterday we got the nod, and we see a gorilla with a Molotov cocktail. That Molotov cocktail is thrown today towards the guards.
In between the guards and the apes.
The guards
like
and
line.
the apes are at a standoff. They are literally facing each other. And, if you're looking at lenses, I'm looking at that shot that Richard has behind him on his Zoom call. That immediately looks like they're pretty close, but truthfully, they're probably a good 80 feet away from each other easily.
Yeah.
That Molotov cocktail is thrown, and we get a burst of flames. It's very exciting. And then gunfire ensues, and apes begin to scatter. I think that really, in a nutshell, kind of describes what this minute has action-wise. My point being to it, that if you're going to create a moment like this, and man, when I'm being picky like this, I still think the moment really works. But when you start looking at it, it's like, okay, that the flame is thrown in front of the guards can then shoot through the flames, and no matter how quickly the apes disperse, you're gonna take out some apes. You're gonna kill them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems
because they're shooting for the flame. The flame isn't some like magic force shield.
Yes, and it seems like if they'd had trash can lids or anything, they could have been brutal forces ready to take on the gunfire or whatever it may be. If he had given a nod and they dispersed first, and then the guards are like, "Oh, they're leaving," and then maybe. This goes back to what Sean and I said, from the new movies, you get the apes that are much more up and down. They aren't just...
Yeah, it's more three-dimensional fighting instead of two-dimensional fighting.
If
on
that
one
Molotov
plane.
cocktail had come from the roof. So imagine if Caesar in his moment stops, raises his hands, they disperse, the guards are like, oh, and suddenly now the flame were to come from on top of them. Now they're like, what the hell's going on? And it should have been the apes. We should have... Instead of just flame toss, flame up, gun shoot, boom, they're dead, we could have told a very different story that eventually gets told. We eventually get this feeling of the apes swarming. It just seems like it should have happened here.
We saw the apes dump gas in a plaza. Mm-hmm. The gas was kind of scattered around the plaza, not necessarily in a line. And while we don't see this Molotov cocktail start a line of flame, the sense is that it's created one line barrier flame as opposed to going everywhere.
Yeah,
that's the sense, that it creates this little barrier that the police now shoot through. And it would have been interesting to either see one of those, because we don't see it. We should have seen the line created, or seen the plaza engulf in flames in other areas as a part of this flame structure. I would have liked to have seen that, because otherwise it just gives me distance. They threw a flame up. There's a wall of flame, and that's about it. And they're shooting through it.
And this is magical fire, because it is self-fueling, because it gets bigger and bigger. It doesn't burn down. If you were to throw gasoline onto concrete and light it, first of all, it's not going to be making huge plumes going up that continue to go up and get higher and higher. It's going to burn straight down because it's on concrete and doesn't have any fuel. Second of all, if you pause it at 43 seconds in, you can just see it's a big giant flame bar.
Yeah.
You can see the bar itself.
Yeah, you can tell, too, in a couple of those shots that there's no other thing that it could be than a flame bar, just because of the way it's not dispersed
so perfectly
gasoline.
controlled.
Yeah, it's this perfect, jutting flame, and you know that it's being propelled upwards.
We do get a lot of nice kind of accessory gun smoke as the pistols are being fired that kind of fills the air a little bit. I kind of like that. Seeing that visual happen, that there's smoke that comes from the fire, from the guns.
From the guns, from when they're shooting blanks, so it gets all that powder and.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool. It kind of makes the shots a little cloudier. Makes it kind of like that.
I did want to be fair to the minute that this is truly pure cinema. You can turn the sound off and understand what's going on. It is a juxtaposition of images that tell you. One side is fighting against the other. One side has weapons, the other doesn't. There is nothing that you need sound-wise to convey this, because it's shots of the troops firing, shots of the fire, shots of apes fleeing, more shots of shooting, and it goes back and forth. So it's telling its story very well. It's just when you look at these kind of things, I now wish, instead of the random scattering of gasoline, if maybe they had containers of gasoline, that they put
set up around there that they could hit.
Yeah.
that maybe they were sneaking and placing, and we'd seen them filling them. And then when the guy threw the Molotov cocktail, and then that could be an explosion out of it, something like that. And you could tell that story just as easily as the spewing of gasoline on the ground.
Wile E. Coyote comes out and puts some TNT here and there with a really long fuse.
Yes.
You see a pile of birdseed, and he's got the little flint, and he brings it back, and then he sets it on fire, so it goes to the birdseed.
And it goes poof in his face.
Exactly, it goes poof in his face. So we're units 4 and 6, right? Mm-hmm. So when we first start the minute, we're looking at them on the right side, and the apes are on the left side. The flame goes up. The apes go around the embankment to kind of come around to the troops on the left. Then towards the end of the minute, we see now troops on the left side of the screen. Are they the same kind? The same troops? Are they two different troops?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because it looks like more apes are coming from over the bridge and more apes are coming from down the stairs. So it's just like troops they had in reserve that are coming now to join the fight.
The guerrillas go left, or go around the fire, I guess, crossing center, coming around to the left side, or sorry, to the right side of the screen where the troops are. And then we get a shot of some guerrillas kind of coming over to the left, like they're going around the flame on the left side. But the troops are either the same troops shot from two different angles or two different grouping of troops. And I couldn't quite tell do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
They shift sides.
Yeah.
Like the troops shift from right side to the left side.
I think that's intentional, because there's a sense of chaos that ensues, and I think that what they're trying to do is to try to say that everything is coming from everywhere.
Okay.
If I go back to the Molotov cocktail, we see one cocktail thrown.
Mm-hmm. That's the only fire that's out there, yeah.
Right.
They want to waste that vodka.
Well, it would have been nice if I'm going to do that. If I had once again, in my setup of this, Caesar holds his hand up, they kind of disperse. Maybe one of the guards goes, they're dispersing. And suddenly he nods. A Molotov cocktail comes from the side. Then another one, we cut to an undershot of somebody up above throwing one. Then you could almost like start cutting in shots of just the cocktails flying. And it could say they're everywhere. That would have made real chaos, and then the running around would have made sense.
And it wouldn't have taken much just to stage a couple of more shots of them throwing a couple of cocktails. It could almost be done solo, where there's an ape or two, and you see the cocktail being thrown.
Right.
You don't have to see it land or anything.
Nope.
You just know that it's being tossed, and it would add to the continual fire happening.
And then you could have had guards even like, oh my God, there's flame here. You could have reactions. Those would have been such easy elements to add in that would have made this narrative, I think, clearer.
Here's what I think is going on in the scene. All right, so Caesar is lined up against the guards. They throw out the Molotov cocktail. Guards start shooting. Caesar's group goes around the flames for whatever reason, and they are actually attacking groups 4 and 6, because we see apes fighting guards. They're jumping on the shields. They're actually attacking the guards. Then we cut to another shot of people still shooting, even though the guards are being attacked. They're still have another shot of them lined up, but apes go around the flame. They've got knives. They're hitting them, but then they show the flame bar with more apes coming around, and there's nobody there. But then they show apes coming down the stairs and over a bridge, and they go past that flame again. These are like fresh new troops coming in supporting. That's got to be what it is.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we're definitely, while we get into tomorrow's minute, the next, we're just going to see apes on apes on apes on apes coming out of nowhere. And I guess this is the start of that. Yeah.
As far as we know, this is the only fire. So if more troops are coming downstairs and everything, and not attacking because they've just shown up, they've got to be reserve forces. All right.
There were 2 points that stood out. 2 things that kind of stood out to me in this minute. There's one where the apes that are coming around to the right. There's one chimp that like practically walks through the flame, and I'm like, oh shit! I thought he was going to catch on fire, and he didn't. He just kind of seems to evade it. But for a moment, I'm like, was he really that close? Like, did they have something on him to keep him from catching fire? And the second one is just like a couple seconds later, we actually see one of the apes with the butcher knife. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
fuck. Like, it's one thing to see them with like really silly knives and really